female on female as well as male on female domestic, GBV. Yeah. But because we're a society that do not discuss these things, I cannot give you a tangible, there's a 2% increase, because men have been socialized into not talking about this.
Yeah.
So, a man would not admit, very, very rarely would he admit to being abused by a partner.
So it's hard to help in that situation.
Well, no, we see the thing is, if you raise the conversation, if you raise the awareness, if you make it a part of every conversation, then somebody will come forward. But if no one talks about it, if we don't acknowledge it as an issue, then where would they go? Where do they go?
Yeah.
So that's why we have the second project, which is the UN Women Caribbean project. UN Women MCO Caribbean Regional Small Spotlight Initiative, and that project is about coalition building. So we've said, look, governments struggle to do social, and by governments I mean anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
They struggle to do social programs, whether it's lack of political will, lack of funding, it is not something that's high on their agenda. So we've said, look, there's lots of individuals and small groups doing work. If we form a coalition that can support what's out there and offer assistance and become a way to advocate for these persons who feel voiceless at the moment. So we're working with faith-based youth groups and sports clubs, because it has to become something that is discussed across the communities. So that coalition building project is that bridge. It's saying, look, what can we do when we come together to assist and raise and be not just a place to help persons, but also to advocate and get more done. Yeah. It's much better as a coalition than an independent organization or independent body or individuals, because there are lots of people out there doing their thing, really trying to, assist the neighbor, the church sister, the co-worker, etc., the family member, etc., etc.
So we've got the church, we've got the local community, we've got government departments. Who else can be pulled into this coalition to make this an overall approach?
Well, the government organisations are not, because we're trying to make it community strengthened.
Yeah.
So they can go to the government agencies. So we've got one sports club is very interested in working with us. We have educational institutions that are working with us, and because if the faith-based groups come together with community groups, with sports clubs, a sports club, with youth groups, all of those groups come together as one body, as well as NGOs, then it is a coalition that will reach sectors. So a church may not reach a sports person, but a sports person may reach a young person in their community. And they're saying, yes, we want to be trained to know what to look for, how to assist, and where can we send them to get assistance. So the coalition is saying, look, you've got to combine, because maybe your church has a hall that can be used as a meeting place, as a support group, for a support group. Maybe your sports club can host workshops in the community, open to all around GBV. But, it's for the coalition to decide how they're going to work together and how they're going to move forward. Because we're giving them the tools and the training, and we want them to be sustainable. So we're saying, okay, what's the first things you got to come up with is what can you offer right now where you are to assist and move forward.
So you talk about supporting each other, you talk about the churches. Now, at the moment, if we don't have anywhere where somebody who is abused, somebody who's being beaten up at home can actually go for shelter, is that something you are looking for?
That's something that's been discussed at all levels. Gender affairs, NGOs, everyone's talking about this is the need. So that's the thing that, again, the advocacy group the coalition group can push for. Because if you say, if enough people are saying it and demanding it, then, and a coalition could probably get funding, some kind of funding a lot quicker than a government. But you have to be able to present to the funding agencies. And one agency, IHO, can't do this on their own. They just cannot. So it would need a coalition, plus an IHO, plus all the other NGOs who are working with women and gender, and the police and the government agencies to combine. Because we have social transformation, we have gender affairs, who are doing their best.
Yeah.
We can't never ever, they are doing with the resources that they have, they are doing. So they have social workers, they have counsellors, but they're overwhelmed. The world has changed in the last 10, 20 years, and the last 3 years, So whereas before you might have had 3 or 4 cases, think of what's happening in the society right now. People are suffering economically, mentally. People are struggling, and so it's feeding itself. The thing is feeding itself. So if you can't talk about your issues, if you can't go somewhere and get help, what happens?
The initiative looks at addressing the root causes of gender-based violence. So you've talked a little bit about it, but what are the root causes of gender-based violence in Antigua and Barbuda?
The same as with anywhere else when it comes to root causes. It's learned behaviour, it's economic, it's pressure, it's toxic masculinity, it's inability to express yourself. It's a host of things, and it's no different here to anywhere else in the world. That this thing knows no class, color, economic group, sexuality. GBV crosses across everyone. Yeah. No one is immune to it. That is the thing. And until we actually sit down at the table and say, you know what, we need to start at schools. Primary school, we need to start, acknowledge that this is a problem. And that's why it's so good that we've got, some faith-based organizations working with us, because people go to church. So if the churches, are involved and saying that yes, this does happen even in our church, it's not immune. And we always, we have to be careful of the stereotyping of victims being from a lower income or uneducated. There are women right now who are independent, who have their double degrees, triple degrees, and are living in the most horrific relationships. But it's not talked about, but we kind of know. So it's breaking the stigma around it is also the big issue that we have to tackle as a community. We have to tackle, and again, IHO and the coalition building, that's all part of. If these groups can work together, independent groups who would normally probably not work together, they come together as a coalition, then that is part of breaking the stigma. Yeah.
I think one of the things you said that really resonates, of course, is the fact that it's learned behaviour, which is, of course, why you're focusing on the young people. And that is something that is worrying, isn't it? That people see what's going on, young people see what's going on and think, oh, that's the norm. And that's one of the things we have to move away from.
Yeah, which goes back to the stigma thing, which goes back to the socialisation and the stereotyping, Yeah. Sometimes even we women joke about some certain things, and you're like, why are we giving language to that and making it normal?
That is a very, very good point. We're making things normal. That's what we need to get away from. Brenda, what's your role in the project?
I'm the project coordinator for the 2 projects. Yeah. So that means I work with a team of wonderful facilitators. I have Reverend Karen Germain, who's a counsellor and teacher at Otta's Comprehensive School. I have Sharon Nandu, who's a volunteer and a lawyer and a coach from the UK, relocated to the Caribbean. And there's Shamara Gage, who's a communication specialist and does public speaking lecturer. So we've got a combination team who are delivering these workshops. So the coalition building workshop has started, and we started 3 weeks ago. We've got another 4 weeks to go. And we had the COIN workshops for 3 weeks in February. We're going to do some follow-up workshops this month, individual ones at 2 education institutions.
So how can people get involved with the workshops and keep up with updates about the project?
Well, the IHO has an Instagram page, lowercase IHO _AB. That's the Instagram page.
Yeah.
If they want to find out about the coalition building workshop, they can call me on 726-5468.
726-5468.
That's correct.
And what about future events, future projects? We've got the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women in November. Are you building up to that, or what else are you doing?
There's Dr. Nicola Bird, who is over IHO. She's the lady driving this with her team, and she's the person that finds the funds for this work. So remember, it's a non-profit organization. Yeah. So she's out there. So we do. IHO has worked with gender affairs on the 16 Days of Activism program.
Yep.
So we're not totally in the wilderness out there by ourselves. There is cooperation and work, synergy between the different groups. And there's other as and when the programs come up, as we get the funding for development, because we've got a biodiversity project going on right now as well. There's the Coconut Queens project, which was the Coconut Women Farmers project.
I'm looking forward to talking to them about that.
Yeah, so IHO's mandate is to work with marginalized groups, to give them tools to improve their health, to improve their voice, and improve their economic well-being. We give them the tools and push them forward. But that's the key.
You've certainly got some exciting projects going on. I'd just like to reiterate that your Instagram is IHO_AB. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. All lowercase.
And your number is 726.
My number. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 726-5468.
That's correct.
And people can contact you to find out more of what's going on.
About the coalition project. Yeah. Yes. IHO itself. Go onto the social media page, send the message, and they will contact you.
Great.
If you want to volunteer with them, if you want to get involved, integrated health organisation, and send a message, and they will contact you.
And
if you want to be involved in coalition, call me.
And presumably, you are always looking for volunteers and support.
Yeah, I think that because with any organisation, they bring on people like myself. We're consultants. We're not. There's a team, a tiny team, out there, a tiny team trying to, secure funding. Because, like I said, governments, no fault of their own, are not set up to deal with certain issues.
Yep.
So it's up to organisations like IHO to go out, get the funding, and then find the persons to work on, as well as volunteer on projects. And that's what we do.
Now, presumably, these projects are ongoing. And are you going to reach an end point with these projects? Is there some particular thing for which you're aiming?
All the thing with these kind of projects, they do have an end time. Maybe 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. They do have. That's why the coalition project has we finished the training and the setting up May this year. Okay?
Yeah.
So by May, we're looking to that the coalition will be standing alone.
And what happens then?
They go forward and we are there to assist how we can, but then they are established enough to start looking at what they need to do.
Right.
How they can, because the coalition is not meant to be an IHO operative. The coalition is meant to be, these groups have come together to work on this this pandemic, which what it is.
Yeah.
And this is what they can do, and they find, okay, as a group of 6 organizations, 5 whatever organizations are involved, when we combine our strengths, what can we offer? Space? Can we offer put together a funding strategy to get funding to do ABC? because coalitions work. Coalitions, work. Lots of funders don't want to work with established governments. They want to work with NGOs. They want to work with coalitions. It's empowerment. It's empowerment.
Yeah. But do you have the support, active support of the government in this project?
I cannot speak to that because that's a Dr. Bird conversation. Oh, okay. I only work on the two projects.
Yep.
I know that we have synergy with gender affairs, but as to how much, I can't speak to that. That's Dr. Bird, Nicola Bird.
That's a powerhouse in her own right. Brenda Lee, thank you so much for talking to me today, and thank you for the work that you're doing on this. This is an ongoing and a global pandemic, as you quite rightly called it. Thank you so much.
All right, the Breakfast Show continues with CJ the Maestro after these messages.